6 months ago, I watched my husband kiss our maid's pregnant belly in my own kitchen. Today, I'm the one who's pregnant. And the baby growing inside me? It's going to destroy everything they built on my pain. My name is Serafina Harlow, and for 15 years I've been fighting a war with my own body. 15 years of hoping, praying, and watching that hope die month after month. When Malachi and I got married, I was 33 and he was 36. We were so in love, so ready to build our family. I remember the night we decided to start trying. We were lying in bed in our new house, and he traced circles on my stomach and said, "I can't wait to see you carrying our baby." I fell asleep that night imagining what our children would look like, whether they'd have his dark eyes or my smile. Year 1 was exciting. Every month felt like a possibility. Year 2 brought concern. My doctor said to give it time, that stress could be a factor, that we were still young enough. Year 3 is when everything changed. That's when the word infertility entered our lives like an unwelcome guest that would never leave. The tests started. Blood work, ultrasounds, examinations that stripped away every ounce of dignity I had. They found nothing wrong with me. Nothing wrong with Malachi either. Unexplained infertility, they called it. As if giving it a name made it easier to swallow. It didn't. It made it worse, because there was nothing to fix, nothing to blame except some cruel twist of fate. We tried IUI first. 3 cycles. 3 failures. Then we moved to IVF. I remember the hormone injections, how they made me feel like a stranger in my own skin. My emotions were everywhere. I'd cry over commercials, snap at Malachi over nothing, then apologize through tears I couldn't stop. He was patient then. He'd hold me and tell me it would all be worth it. The first IVF cycle, I was so hopeful. I took the pregnancy test 3 days before I was supposed to because I couldn't wait. Negative. I took another one the next day. Negative. The day after. Negative. When the clinic called with the official results, I already knew. Malachi came home that night with flowers and held me while I sobbed into his chest. We tried again. And again. 7 IVF cycles over the course of 8 years. Each one cost thousands of dollars, thousands of hours of hope, and thousands of pieces of my heart. But it was the miscarriages that truly broke me. The first one happened at 12 weeks. We'd heard the heartbeat. We'd told our families. I'd bought a tiny pair of shoes and hidden them in my drawer to surprise Malachi with later. Then one morning I woke up bleeding. The cramping started an hour later. Malachi drove me to the hospital holding my hand, so tight, I thought my bones would break. The doctor confirmed what I already knew. There was no heartbeat anymore. Malachi held me in that hospital room and promised we'd try again. He meant it then. I know he did. The second miscarriage happened at 8 weeks. I didn't tell anyone I was pregnant that time except Malachi. When I lost it, I felt like I'd failed some test the universe kept giving me. The third miscarriage was at 6 weeks. I barely had time to hope before it was gone. After that, something changed in Malachi. He stopped talking about trying. He'd leave the room when I mentioned doctor's appointments. His family started making comments at dinners. His mother, Valencia, would sigh dramatically and say things like, "Well, I suppose some women just aren't meant to be mothers," while looking directly at me. Malachi never defended me. He'd just stare at his plate and change the subject. I threw myself into work. I'd built my interior design firm from nothing, and it was thriving. I had celebrity clients, features in magazines, a team of 20 people who depended on me. But every success felt hollow. Every beautifully designed nursery I created for clients felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I'd go home to the room I'd decorated 3 different times for a baby that never came, and I'd have to dismantle it again because looking at it hurt too much. My body became a battlefield. Every negative test was a defeat. Every period that came was a failure. I measured my worth in hormone levels and follicle counts and embryo grades. And with each failure, I felt less like a woman and more like a broken machine that couldn't perform its most basic function. By year 13, Malachi and I barely spoke. We lived in the same house like polite strangers. We'd have dinner together, discuss our days in vague terms, then retreat to separate spaces. The intimacy was gone. The connection was gone. But I held on because letting go felt like admitting defeat on every level. That's when I hired Jessamine. My business had exploded. I was traveling constantly, meeting with clients, overseeing projects across 3 states. I needed help at home. I needed someone to manage the house, handle the cooking and cleaning, the things I no longer had energy for. Jessamine Corvale came with glowing references. She was 24 then, with these wide, innocent eyes and a story that tugged at your heartstrings. She'd grown up in foster care, bounced around homes, never had a real family. She said working for us would be a dream come true. I remember her first day. She stood in our foyer with a small backpack containing everything she owned, looking around our home like she'd stepped into a fairy tale. She had this way of making you want to take care of her, protect her. I showed her to her room above the garage, gave her a tour of the house, explained what I needed. She was so grateful, so eager to please. What would you do if you brought someone into your home to help you, only to have them destroy everything you built? Let me know in the comments. At first, Jessamine was perfect. She kept the house immaculate. She learned Malachi's routines and started having his coffee ready before he came downstairs. She'd cook elaborate dinners on nights when I was too exhausted from work and fertility appointments. I was grateful. God, I was so grateful. I thought I'd found someone who could help shoulder the burden of running our household while I fought my private war with my body. She'd ask about my day, listen to me talk about difficult clients, bring me tea when I was working late in my home office. She seemed to genuinely care. I started thinking of her as more than just an employee. I confided in her about my fertility struggles. She'd hold my hand and tell me she was praying for me, that she just knew it would happen for me someday. I never saw the shift happening. It was so gradual, so subtle, that by the time I noticed, it was already too late. It started with small things. I'd come home from a business trip and find Jessamine wearing my perfume. When I mentioned it, she'd laugh and say she'd tried it while cleaning my bathroom and loved it so much. Did I mind? I said no, of course not. What else could I say without seeming petty? Then I noticed the way she'd linger when talking to Malachi. Her hand on his arm a beat too long. Her laugh at his jokes a bit too loud, too intimate. The way she'd lean in close when showing him something on her phone. I told myself I was being paranoid. I was so consumed with my own pain that I was seeing threats where there were none. 6 months after hiring her, I came home early from a business trip to San Francisco. A client meeting had been canceled, and I'd caught an earlier flight. I texted Malachi that I was on my way home, but he didn't respond. He was probably in court, I thought. When I walked into my kitchen at 2 in the afternoon on a Tuesday, I found Jessamine making breakfast. She was wearing my silk robe. My favorite one, the ivory one with delicate lace that Malachi had bought me for our 10th anniversary. She jumped when she saw me, and for just a moment, I saw something flash across her face. Not embarrassment, triumph. Then her expression shifted to apologetic innocence. "Oh, Mrs. Harlow, you scared me. I'm so sorry. I spilled coffee all over my uniform this morning. Mr. Harlow said I could borrow something while it was in the wash." I looked past her to the counter. 2 plates set out. 2 coffee cups. The breakfast she was making was Malachi's favorite, eggs Benedict with smoked salmon. I never made eggs Benedict. I didn't have the patience for hollandaise sauce. Malachi came down the stairs at that moment. He was in his undershirt and slacks, hair still damp from a shower. When he saw me, his face went pale. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Serafina, I didn't know you were coming home early." The way he said it. Not, "I'm so glad you're home," or "what a nice surprise." Just that flat statement, almost accusatory, as if I'd done something wrong by showing up to my own house unannounced. Jessamine smiled at him. Actually smiled. Then she turned back to the stove, completely comfortable in my kitchen, in my robe, cooking breakfast for my husband. I should have confronted them then. I should have demanded answers, thrown her out, forced Malachi to explain. But I didn't. My intuition was screaming that something was wrong, but my rational mind built a wall of excuses. He was just being kind to an employee. She really had spilled coffee. I was being crazy, letting years of fertility treatments and hormones and disappointment turn me into a paranoid, jealous woman. So I smiled. I said it was fine. I went upstairs and unpacked my suitcase with shaking hands. Over the next few months, things got worse. Jessamine started forgetting to do tasks I'd asked her to handle. I'd come home to find dishes in the sink, laundry unfolded, meals unprepared. When I'd mention it, she'd apologize profusely, but there was this look in her eyes. This knowing smirk that disappeared the moment Malachi entered the room. She started making comments. Little digs wrapped in concern. "Mrs. Harlow, you look so tired. All those doctor's appointments must be exhausting. I saw the most beautiful baby at the market today. Do you ever wonder if you'll get to experience that? Mr. Harlow would make such a wonderful father. It's a shame." I'd catch her rolling her eyes when I asked her to do something. She'd sigh heavily, as if I was some burden she had to endure. And Malachi never noticed. Or, if he did, he never said anything. The disrespect grew bolder. She started joining us for dinner, without being invited. She'd sit at our table and dominate the conversation, acting like she belonged there. Like she was part of our family instead of our employee. If you're already hooked on this story and want to see how this betrayal unfolds, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now because what happens next is going to shock you. Everything came crashing down on a Tuesday in October. I just finished my 7th IVF cycle. 7 times I'd pumped my body full of hormones. 7 times I'd gone through egg retrieval, feeling those cramps and hoping it would be worth it. 7 times I'd waited through the agonizing 2-week window between transfer and testing. And 7 times I'd failed. The clinic called that morning. I was in my car in their parking lot. The nurse's voice was gentle, pitying. "I'm so sorry, Serafina. The test was negative. Your HCG levels show no pregnancy." I sat in that parking lot for an hour. I couldn't drive. I couldn't move. I just stared at the steering wheel and felt something inside me break. Not crack. Not fracture. Fully break. 15 years of trying. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Every ounce of hope I had. All of it for nothing. When I finally drove home, it was late afternoon. The house was quiet when I walked in. Malachi's car was in the driveway, but he wasn't inside. I called his name. Nothing. I went upstairs, thinking I'd collapse in bed and cry until I couldn't breathe. But as I walked past our bedroom window, I heard something. Laughter. Coming from the guest house. We had a small guest house at the back of our property. We barely used it. It was meant for visitors, but we rarely had people stay over. I hadn't been in there in months. I walked through our garden in a daze. It was October, and the leaves were changing colors. The sunset was happening, painting everything in shades of gold and amber. It was beautiful. The kind of beautiful that makes you ache. I remember thinking how cruel it was that the world could be so lovely while I was shattering into pieces. The guest house had large windows facing the garden. The curtains were open. And there they were. Malachi and Jessamine. His hands were in her hair. That specific way he used to touch me when we first got married, fingers threading through slowly, tenderly. His face had this expression I hadn't seen in years. Softness. Joy. Love. She was laughing at something he said. Her head was tilted back. His lips were on her neck. I stood there and watched my husband love someone else in my own home. I watched him be the man I remembered from 15 years ago, the man who disappeared somewhere between the 3rd miscarriage and the 5th failed IVF cycle. He was happy. So clearly, obviously happy. And I realized he hadn't been happy with me in years. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't storm in and confront them. I turned around and walked back to the house like a ghost floating through that golden sunset. I went to our bedroom, sat on the edge of our bed, and stared at nothing. I felt my marriage die that evening. Every promise we'd made to each other, every dream we'd built, every year we'd spent together. All of it died in the time it took me to walk from the guest house back to the main house. What I didn't know was that my humiliation was just beginning. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed next to Malachi, listening to him breathe, wondering how long he'd been lying to me. He came home around 8 that evening, acting like nothing had happened. He kissed my forehead, asked about my day, heated up leftovers for dinner. I said nothing. I just watched him, studying this man I thought I knew, trying to find the moment when he became a stranger. I waited until morning. I needed to see them both together. I needed to look into their eyes in the cold light of day and hear them try to explain away what I'd witnessed. I woke up at 5, made coffee, and sat at our kitchen table. The same table where we'd hosted dinner parties, celebrated anniversaries, shared quiet Sunday mornings reading the newspaper. I sat there and waited. Malachi came down first, around 6:30. He was already dressed for work, his tie perfectly knotted. He saw me sitting there and stopped mid-step. Something in my face must have told him. His expression changed. The casual morning greeting died on his lips. "Serafina."
I didn't respond.
I just looked at him. Really looked at him. Trying to see the man I'd married underneath this person who could betray me in my own home. Then I heard footsteps on the stairs. Light, quick footsteps. Jessamine appeared in the kitchen doorway, wearing one of her modest uniforms, her hair pulled back neatly. She looked fresh, rested, glowing in a way that made my stomach turn. When she saw us, saw the tension in the air, she had the audacity to smile. Not a nervous smile, a knowing smile. She walked to the coffee maker like she owned the place, poured herself a cup, and leaned against the counter. Casual, comfortable, at home. I spoke 2 words. Just 2. "How long?" Malachi's face drained of all color. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. He looked like a man drowning, grasping for something to hold on to. Jessamine took a sip of her coffee, looking at me over the rim of her mug. Then she shrugged, actually shrugged, and said, "Does it matter?" The audacity. The sheer audacity of this woman standing in my kitchen, drinking coffee from my cups, asking if her affair with my husband mattered. Malachi found his voice then. "Serafina, please. Let me explain." "Explain." I repeated the word like it was foreign. "Explain what, exactly? Explain how long you've been sleeping with our maid? Explain how many times you've touched her in our home while I was at doctor's appointments trying to have your child? Explain which of you decided the guest house was the perfect place for your affair." He flinched at every word.
Good.
I wanted him to flinch. I wanted him to feel even a fraction of what was tearing through my chest. "It's not like that," he started, and I actually laughed. A harsh, bitter sound I didn't recognize as my own. "Then tell me what it's like, Malachi.
Please.
Enlighten me." He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I'd seen 1,000 times when he was stressed. "You were always so focused on the treatments, on getting pregnant. That's all you cared about. That's all we ever talked about. We stopped being us. We stopped being a couple. We just became 2 people going through the motions of trying to have a baby." The words hit me like physical blows. "So this is my fault? Because I was trying to give you the family you said you wanted?" "That's not what I'm saying." "Then what are you saying?" "We grew apart, Serafina. You shut me out. Every time a treatment failed, you'd retreat into yourself. You stopped letting me in. You stopped seeing me as anything other than a means to get pregnant. When was the last time we had a conversation that wasn't about ovulation windows or hormone levels or doctor's appointments?" I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. "When was the last time you held me when I was crying? When was the last time you defended me when your mother made her cruel little comments about my empty womb? When was the last time you looked at me like I was more than just a disappointing vessel that couldn't give you what you wanted?" I needed to feel like a man. His voice rose, defensive, angry. I needed to feel wanted.
Desired.
Like I mattered for something other than my sperm count. The silence that followed was deafening. "So, you proved your manhood by sleeping with our employee?" My voice was so cold, so calm. It scared even me. Malachi took a step back. "That's not fair." "Fair? You want to talk to me about fair? I gave you 15 years. I pumped my body full of hormones that made me feel insane. I endured procedures that hurt. I lost 3 babies. 3. I felt them die inside me. And through all of it I stayed. I fought. I believed we were fighting together. But we weren't, were we? You gave up. You decided I wasn't enough. You decided our marriage wasn't worth fighting for. And you found comfort in a 26-year-old who probably saw dollar signs the moment she walked into our home. Jessamine pushed off from the counter. That's not true. I turned to her slowly. I wasn't talking to you. Well, maybe you should. She set down her coffee cup, and her hand moved to her stomach. A protective gesture. A possessive gesture. Maybe you should hear the truth from someone who's not too proud to say it. My eyes followed her hand, resting on her flat stomach. That simple gesture that sent ice through my veins. At least one of us can give you what you need. The room started spinning. I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself. What did you just say? Malachi's face went gray. Jessa, don't. But she kept going, emboldened now, triumphant. I'm 8 weeks pregnant, Serafina. Malachi is going to be a father. Finally. After all these years of trying with you and failing, it took me one time. One time. Doesn't that tell you something? I couldn't breathe. The room was tilting. 8 weeks. 8 weeks meant this had been going on for at least that long, probably longer. 8 weeks meant she'd been sleeping with my husband while I was going through my 7th IVF cycle. While I was injecting myself with hormones and hoping and praying and failing. 8 weeks meant there was a baby. A real baby. Growing inside the woman who'd wormed her way into my home, into my marriage, into my life. I looked at Malachi. Really looked at him. Waiting for him to deny it. To tell Jessamine she was lying, that this was some sick game. But he didn't. His face said everything. The guilt. The fear. And underneath it all, barely concealed, a flicker of something else.
Hope. Pride. Joy.
He was happy about this baby. I walked out of the kitchen. I didn't run. I didn't cry. I walked up the stairs to our bedroom, closed the door, locked it, and sat on the bathroom floor. That's when the tears came. Not delicate tears. Gut-wrenching sobs that shook my entire body. I cried until I had nothing left. Malachi knocked on the door eventually, calling my name, but I didn't answer. What was there to say? What words could possibly bridge the chasm that had opened between us? The news spread through the family like wildfire. By that evening, my phone was ringing. Valencia, of course. I let it go to voicemail. She called 3 more times. Then she texted. We need to talk about this situation. Family dinner tomorrow night. Don't be dramatic about this, Serafina. These things happen. These things happen. As if my husband impregnating our maid was equivalent to a fender bender or a missed appointment. As if 15 years of marriage meant nothing. As if I meant nothing. The family dinner was exactly as horrific as I'd imagined. I almost didn't go, but something in me refused to hide. Refused to be the one who felt shame when I'd done nothing wrong. Valencia's house was immaculate as always. A sprawling estate that she ran like a military commander. I arrived late, intentionally. I wanted them all there, waiting, wondering if I'd show up. They were in the dining room. Valencia at the head of the table, naturally. Malachi to her right, looking miserable. Jessamine to her left, looking radiant. Malachi's 2 brothers and their wives, all watching me with a mixture of pity and discomfort. No one knew where to look. I sat down at the far end of the table. Valencia launched into her speech immediately. Serafina, I'm glad you came. We're family, and family sticks together through difficult times. Now, I know this situation is unorthodox, but we need to think about what's best for everyone involved. Especially the baby. The baby. Not me. Not our marriage.
Not the 15 years I'd spent as part of this family.
The baby that didn't even exist, yet beyond a cluster of cells in Jessamine's womb. Malachi has made a mistake, Valencia continued, as if he were a child who'd broken a vase. But he's trying to do the right thing. He's going to support the baby, obviously. And we all need to be supportive. One of Malachi's sisters-in-law, Christina, spoke up. Valencia, I think we should acknowledge that Serafina is the wronged party here. Valencia waved her hand dismissively. Of course. But dwelling on blame isn't productive. We need to move forward. Move forward how exactly? My voice cut through the chatter. Valencia smiled at me. That condescending smile I'd endured for 15 years. Well, dear, that depends on you.
You could be gracious about this.
Accepting. Some marriages survive infidelity. Some even thrive after bringing new life into the world, even if the circumstances aren't ideal. I stared at her. Are you suggesting I help raise my husband's bastard child with our maid? The word bastard landed like a grenade. Jessamine gasped. Malachi's jaw tightened. Valencia's smile didn't waver. I'm suggesting you think carefully about your future. You're not getting any younger, Serafina. And clearly, having children isn't in the cards for you. Do you really want to be divorced at 38, starting over? Or would you rather maintain your lifestyle, your social position, and perhaps come to terms with a new family structure? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was asking me to accept humiliation in exchange for maintaining appearances. To watch my husband play father to another woman's child while I remained the barren wife on the sidelines. Valencia raised her wine glass. To new beginnings. To family. To the baby that will finally carry on the Harlow name. Everyone raised their glasses except me. I watched them toast to my destruction. Toast to the end of my marriage. Toast to the baby I couldn't have while celebrating the one conceived in betrayal. Malachi drank his wine without looking at me. Jessamine smiled, her hand on her stomach again, that proprietary gesture that was becoming familiar. I left before dessert, got in my car, and drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove until I found myself parked outside Cordelia's condo at midnight. She opened the door in her pajamas, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. I told her everything. Every humiliating detail. She listened without interrupting, her face growing harder with each revelation. When I finished, she said exactly what I expected. Pack your bags. You're not staying in that house. Where would I go?
Here. With me.
Or a hotel. Or literally anywhere that isn't under the same roof as that cheating bastard and his pregnant mistress. It's my house, Cordelia. I designed half of it. I paid for most of it. Why should I leave? Because watching them play house is going to destroy you. I'm already destroyed. She grabbed my hands. Then don't let them see it. Don't give them the satisfaction. File for divorce. Take him for everything he's worth. Move on with your life. I thought about it. Divorce. The word felt heavy, final. Divorce meant admitting failure. It meant telling everyone that my marriage had fallen apart, that I couldn't keep my husband, couldn't have his children, couldn't be enough. The shame of it paralyzed me. I can't, I whispered. Not yet. I need time to think. Serafina. It's my home. I won't let them take it from me. I won't let them win. It was pride talking. Stupid, stubborn pride. But I couldn't help it. I'd lost everything else. I wouldn't lose my home, too. The next 3 months were the closest thing to hell I've ever experienced. Jessamine moved into the main house. Not back into her room above the garage. Into the guest room. The guest room that shared a wall with my bedroom. The room next to the master suite where I slept alone while my husband's pregnant mistress slept 10 feet away. I heard everything. Her morning sickness that started around week 9. The sounds of her retching in the bathroom, followed by Malachi's concerned voice asking if she was okay, if she needed anything. The same man who'd barely acknowledged my pain during my miscarriages was suddenly attentive and caring with her. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to him comfort another woman carrying his child. Malachi tried to maintain some semblance of normalcy. He'd still sleep in our bed, still go through the motions of being my husband. But he was different. Distant. His mind was always somewhere else. On her. On the baby. I'd catch him looking at pregnancy apps on his phone. Reading articles about fetal development. He subscribed to some daddy-to-be newsletter that would send updates. Your baby is the size of a lime this week. I saw one pop up on his phone during dinner. He quickly swiped it away, but not before I'd read it. Jessamine's cruelty escalated. It was like she knew she'd won, and wanted to make sure I knew it too. She'd leave pregnancy books lying around. What to expect when you're expecting on the kitchen counter. The first-time father's handbook on the coffee table. Always in places where I couldn't miss them. She'd ask me to pick things up for her when I was out. Prenatal vitamins. Ginger tea for her morning sickness. Pregnancy pillows. She'd phrase it so sweetly. "Oh, Serafina, if you're going to the store anyway, would you mind grabbing some folic acid? For the baby's health, you know." The baby. She said those words constantly, making sure I never forgot. Making sure the knife stayed twisted in my chest. The worst was the nursery. The nursery I'd decorated 3 different times. 3 different color schemes, 3 different themes, 3 different futures that never materialized. Jessamine asked Malachi if she could decorate it. He actually looked at me, waiting for permission. I said nothing. What could I say? It wasn't being used. It was just a room full of ghosts and broken dreams. So I said nothing, and my silence was taken as consent. She decorated it in soft yellows and grays. Gender neutral, she said, since they didn't know yet. I watched from the doorway as she hung curtains, assembled a crib, arranged stuffed animals. Malachi helped her. I watched my husband build furniture for another woman's baby in the room meant for ours. My business started falling apart. I couldn't focus. I'd miss client calls, show up late to site visits, forget meetings entirely. My assistant, Maria, covered for me as much as she could, but even her patience was wearing thin. I was losing projects, losing clients, losing the one thing I'd built when I couldn't build a family. I stopped eating.
Food tasted like ash.
I'd force down coffee in the morning and maybe pick at a salad for dinner, but mostly I just stopped feeling hungry. The weight fell off. 10 pounds. 15.
20.
My clothes hung off me. My face became gaunt. I looked sick because I was sick. Sick with grief and rage and humiliation. Sleep became impossible. I'd lie awake listening to the sounds of Jessamine's pregnancy. Her midnight bathroom trips. Her conversations with Malachi about baby names, nursery colors, delivery plans. I'd hear them laugh. Actual laughter. In my home. While I lay alone in the dark, dying by inches. The breaking point came on a Saturday afternoon. I'd been at my office trying to salvage a client relationship. When I came home, I heard music and voices. Lots of voices. I walked through my front door and froze. My living room was full of people. Pink and blue decorations hung from the ceiling. A banner read, "Baby Harlow coming soon." There were balloons, presents stacked on tables, platters of food. A baby shower. Jessamine was hosting a baby shower in my house. Valencia was there, of course, holding court. Malachi's sisters-in-law. Neighbors I'd smiled at for years. Women from the country club where I'd played tennis. All of them gathered to celebrate the baby my husband made with our maid while I'd failed to conceive for 15 years. Jessamine stood in the center of it all, wearing a tight dress that showed off her growing belly. She was glowing, radiant, triumphant. She saw me standing in the doorway, and her smile widened. "Oh, Serafina, you're home. Come join us. We're just about to open gifts." Every eye in the room turned to me. I saw pity.
Discomfort.
Judgment. These women who'd attended my dinner parties, who'd accepted my hospitality, who'd called themselves my friends. Now they were here celebrating my humiliation. Valencia walked over with a glass of champagne in her hand. "Serafina, darling, isn't this lovely? We thought it would be nice to have the shower here since, well, it will be the baby's home." The baby's home. Not my home. The baby's home. I turned around and walked out. I heard Jessamine's voice behind me, loud enough for everyone to hear. Poor thing. This must be so hard for her. I do feel bad, but I can't help being blessed with fertility. I got in my car. I drove. I didn't know where I was going until I ended up at Cordelia's office. She was working even on a Saturday. When her assistant told her I was there, she came out immediately. One look at my face, and she canceled her appointments. "That's it. We're going to the doctor."
Now.
I tried to protest, but I had no fight left in me. She drove me to Dr. Octavia Marembi's office. Dr. Marembi was my fertility specialist, the woman who'd guided me through 7 IVF cycles, who'd held my hand through 3 miscarriages, who'd never given up even when I had. Cordelia called ahead. Dr. Marembi agreed to see me even though it was Saturday, even though I didn't have an appointment. That's the kind of doctor she was. When she saw me, her professional composure cracked. Serafina. Oh, honey. When did you last eat? I couldn't remember. Yesterday? The day before? She did a full examination. Took my weight, my blood pressure, my vitals. Ordered comprehensive blood work. The whole time, she kept glancing at me with this expression that was part concern, part anger. You're severely underweight. Your blood pressure is dangerously low. When was your last period? I tried to think back. Weeks ago? Months? Everything had become a blur. I don't remember. She made notes in my chart, her jaw tight. Then she sat down across from me and took my hands. Talk to me. And don't tell me you're fine, because you're clearly not fine. And I broke. Completely, utterly broke. I told her everything. The affair. The pregnancy. The baby shower in my house. Living with them. Watching my husband become the father he never was during our attempts. Jessamine's cruelty. Valencia's dismissal. The complete destruction of everything I'd built my life around. I gave everything to trying to have a baby, I sobbed. Everything.
My body. My time.
My money. My sanity. And someone else got pregnant with my husband's child without even trying. She didn't have to pump herself full of hormones or endure invasive procedures or lose babies that she'd already started to love. It just happened for her. Easily. Naturally. Like it was nothing. What's wrong with me? What did I do to deserve this? Dr. Marembi let me cry. She didn't offer platitudes or try to rush me through my grief. She just held my hands and let me fall apart in her office. When I finally quieted, she spoke. There is nothing wrong with you, Serafina. Infertility is not a punishment. It's not karma. It's not a reflection of your worth as a woman or a human being. It's a medical condition, nothing more. What's happening to you now, this situation with your husband, that's about his choices. His failures. His betrayal. Not yours. But she got pregnant. So easily. Some people do. Some people struggle. That's biology, not destiny. And what's happening to you right now, this depression, this weight loss, this is your body and mind telling you that you're in crisis. You need help. Professional help. And you need to get out of that house. It's my house. It's killing you. Her voice was firm now. Literally killing you. Look at yourself. You've lost 20 pounds in 3 months. You're not sleeping. You're not eating. You're barely functioning. If you stay in that environment, you're going to end up in a hospital. Is that what you want? I didn't answer because I didn't know what I wanted anymore. I didn't know anything except that I hurt. Everywhere. All the time. A pain so deep and so vast that I didn't know how to contain it. Have you ever felt so broken that you didn't know if you could put the pieces back together? Let me know in the comments. And if this story is resonating with you, hit that subscribe button because what happens next is going to change everything. Dr. Marembi ordered blood work before I left. Comprehensive panels. She said she wanted to check my hormone levels, my thyroid, everything. She wanted to make sure my body was functioning properly given the stress I'd been under. Come back in 3 days for the results. And Serafina, please consider what I said. About leaving. About getting help. You can't heal in the environment that's hurting you. Cordelia drove me home. I didn't want to go back, but I had nowhere else to go. Couldn't stomach the thought of a hotel. Couldn't impose on Cordelia indefinitely. So I went back to my beautiful house that had become my prison. The baby shower was over. The decorations were gone. But the evidence remained. Opened gifts stacked in the living room. Tiny clothes, blankets, bottles, all the things that would be used for the baby that wasn't mine. Jessamine was in the kitchen, humming, cleaning up. She turned when she heard me come in. Oh, you missed a lovely party. Everyone was so generous. The baby is going to be so spoiled. I walked past her without a word. Went upstairs. Locked myself in my room. And I realized something in that moment. Something crucial. I couldn't do this anymore. Whatever happened next, whatever Dr. Marembi's tests showed, whatever decisions I had to make, I couldn't keep living like this.
Something had to change.
I left that appointment feeling hollow, scraped out, empty. I had no idea that the universe was about to prove Dr. Marembi right in the most shocking way possible. 3 days after that appointment with Dr. Marembi, I was sitting in my home office trying to focus on a design proposal when my phone rang. Her name flashed on the screen. I almost didn't answer. I wasn't ready for more bad news, more confirmation that my body was failing me in yet another way. But something made me pick up. Serafina. Her voice was strange. Urgent. I need you to come to my office immediately. My heart dropped into my stomach. What's wrong? Is it cancer? Did the blood work show something? Just come.
Now.
I'll explain everything when you get here. She hung up before I could ask anything else. I sat there staring at my phone, my hands shaking. This was it. This was the final blow. I'd survived my husband's betrayal only to find out I had some terrible disease. The universe's final joke on Serafina Harlow, the woman who couldn't catch a break. I drove to her office in a daze. My mind was spinning through worst-case scenarios. Ovarian cancer, thyroid disease, something that would explain the weight loss, the exhaustion, the complete breakdown of my body. Something that would give a name to this death I'd been experiencing in slow motion. The receptionist was expecting me. She rushed me back immediately, no waiting room, no delay. That scared me more. When doctors hurry, it's never good news. Dr. Marembi was standing in her office, pacing. I'd never seen her pace before. In all the years she'd been my doctor, through all the failed treatments and losses, she'd always been composed, calm, steady. Now she looked almost agitated. When I walked in, she stopped and stared at me with this expression I couldn't read. It wasn't pity. It wasn't the gentle sympathy I'd seen so many times before. It was something else entirely. Confusion mixed with something that looked almost like excitement. Sit down, she said, gesturing to the chair. Just tell me. Whatever it is, just tell me. I can handle it. That was a lie. I couldn't handle anything anymore. But I said it anyway because that's what you say. She sat down across from me and took a deep breath. I've checked the results 3 times. I ran the tests again this morning to be absolutely certain. I even did an ultrasound to confirm. Confirm what? She leaned forward, took my hands in hers, and said words I never thought I'd hear. Serafina, according to your blood work and the ultrasound I just performed, you're pregnant. About 6 weeks along. The room tilted. I heard the words, but they didn't make sense. They were sounds without meaning, syllables strung together in an order that couldn't possibly be right. That's impossible. I assure you it's not. Your HCG levels are exactly where they should be for 6 weeks. The ultrasound shows a gestational sac, a yolk sac, and a fetal pole with a heartbeat. You are definitely pregnant. I yanked my hands away from hers.
No.
That's not possible. My husband and I haven't been intimate in months. We barely speak. We certainly haven't. Then I stopped. Because that wasn't entirely true. 3 months ago. Maybe closer to 4 now. It was late at night. I'd been in my office working, and Malachi had come in. He'd been drinking. Not drunk, but definitely tipsy. He'd sat down and started talking. Really talking, for the first time in months. He talked about how he missed us, missed what we used to be.
He cried.
Actually cried. Said he didn't know how everything had gotten so broken. I'd been drinking too. Wine, to numb the pain of existing. We'd both been raw, grieving, desperate for something to make the hurt stop. And for one night, we'd reached for each other. Not out of love, exactly. Out of shared pain. Out of muscle memory of what we used to be. Out of the desperate human need to feel less alone. It lasted one night. By morning, the distance was back. He'd left for work early. We never mentioned it again. And I'd thought nothing of it, because why would I? After 7 failed IVF cycles, after 15 years of trying, after my body had proven over and over that it couldn't hold on to a pregnancy, why would one drunken night of grief sex result in anything? There was one time, I whispered. 3, maybe 4 months ago. But it was once. Just once. And we'd been trying for 15 years. How could one time? Your body is different now. Dr. Marembi's voice was gentle but firm. I've seen this before, though rarely. Sometimes after years of fertility treatments, after the hormones and the stress and the constant intervention, the body needs time to reset. You stopped all treatments after your last failed cycle, correct? I nodded numbly. Your body had time to regulate itself naturally. No hormones, no medications, no procedures. And sometimes, when the body isn't under that kind of stress, when it's allowed to just be, things can happen naturally that couldn't happen before. It's not common, but it happens. But I lost 20 pounds. I'm barely eating. I'm stressed beyond anything I've ever experienced. How could a pregnancy survive that? Sometimes pregnancies are more resilient than we think. The fetus is drawing what it needs from your reserves. That's actually part of why you've lost so much weight. Your body is prioritizing the pregnancy, which is why we need to get you eating properly, taking prenatal vitamins, taking care of yourself. This pregnancy appears to be progressing normally, but you need to support it. I couldn't process what she was saying.
Pregnant. Me.
The woman everyone had written off as barren. The woman whose own mother-in-law had suggested she was broken. The woman who'd watched her husband impregnate their maid because she couldn't do the one thing a wife was supposed to do. I don't believe you. My voice sounded strange, high-pitched, panicked. Run the tests again. There's been a mistake. Mix-up with the lab results. Something. Dr. Marembi stood up and guided me to the examination room. We're going to do another ultrasound right now. You're going to see it with your own eyes. I lay on the table, my mind screaming that this was cruel, that she was giving me hope that would be ripped away again. She'd run the tests again and realize her mistake. The universe wouldn't give me this. Not now. Not after everything. She put the gel on my stomach, pressed the transducer against my skin, and turned the screen toward me.
There it was.
A tiny blob on the screen. Barely anything at all. But inside that blob, a flicker. A rapid, steady flicker. That's the heartbeat, Dr. Marembi said softly. 120 beats per minute. Perfectly normal for 6 weeks. I stared at that screen, at that tiny flickering light, and something broke open inside my chest. Not broke in a painful way. Broke like a dam giving way after years of holding back an ocean. I'm pregnant, I whispered. You're pregnant. But I've lost 3 before. In the first trimester. What if? We'll monitor you closely. Weekly appointments. Ultrasounds every 2 weeks. We'll do everything we can to support this pregnancy. But Serafina, listen to me. You cannot stay in that house. The stress you're under, it's not good for you or the baby. You need to be in an environment where you can rest, where you can eat, where you're not watching your husband play father to another woman's child. I couldn't stop staring at the screen, at the proof that my body, my broken, betraying body, had done the impossible. Does this mean... I couldn't finish the question. Does this mean you'll carry to term? I can't promise that. No doctor can. But right now, today, you are pregnant with a viable pregnancy. That's all we know. That's all we can know. She printed out pictures from the ultrasound, for tiny images showing that blob, that flicker, that impossible possibility. I held them in shaking hands. What do I do? You take care of yourself. You eat. You rest. You reduce stress as much as possible. And you decide who you want to tell and when. I left her office in a fog. I got into my car, sat in the parking lot, and stared at those ultrasound images for an hour. Maybe longer. Time stopped meaning anything. I was pregnant. After 15 years, after 7 IVF cycles, after 3 miscarriages, after watching my marriage implode and my husband impregnate our maid, after losing everything I thought defined me, I was pregnant. The questions came in a flood. Did I tell Malachi? Did I tell Jessamine? Did I announce it to Valencia and watch her face twist with the realization that I'd succeeded where she thought I never would? Did I shout it from the rooftops, claim my vindication, prove to everyone who'd written me off that I wasn't broken after all? Or did I protect this fragile, impossible thing growing inside me? This secret that could shatter just as easily as it had appeared. I'd lost 3 pregnancies before. 3 times I'd announced the news, shared the joy, let myself believe. And 3 times I'd had to unannounce it, watch the pity fill people's eyes, endure the awkward silences and the maybe next time platitudes. I couldn't do that again. I couldn't tell Malachi and watch him torn between guilt over me and joy over Jessamine. I couldn't tell Valencia and give her another opportunity to make everything about her and the Harlow legacy. I couldn't tell Jessamine and give her the satisfaction of watching me lose another baby. This pregnancy was mine. Mine alone. And I would protect it with everything I had. I called Cordelia. She answered on the first ring. What did the doctor say? Is everything okay? Can you meet me? Somewhere private. Not your office. Not my house. Somewhere we can talk. 30 minutes later, we were sitting in her car in an empty parking lot overlooking the bay. I handed her the ultrasound pictures without saying anything. She looked at them, confused at first. Then, understanding dawned. Her eyes went wide, her mouth fell open, and she let out a scream that probably shattered windows 3 blocks away. You're pregnant? Serafina, you're pregnant?
How?
When? Oh my God. She grabbed me and hugged me so hard I couldn't breathe. When she pulled back, she was crying. Actual tears streaming down her face. This is a miracle. This is, wait. Does Malachi know?
No.
Does anyone know? Just you and Dr. Marembi. Are you going to tell him? I looked out at the water, at the boats bobbing in the harbor, at the seagulls circling overhead. I don't know. I lost 3 before, Cordelia. What if I lose this one too? What if I tell everyone and then in 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 8 weeks it's gone? I can't do that again. I can't survive that again. She grabbed my hand. So, don't tell them. Not yet. Wait until you're out of the danger zone. Wait until the 2nd trimester. Wait until you know this baby is going to make it. That's months away. Jessamine will have her baby before then. She's 5 months along already. Cordelia's expression changed. Hardened. Let me ask you something. Do you really think Malachi deserves to know? After everything he's done? After the way he's treated you? He's the father. He's a cheating bastard who knocked up your maid while you were going through fertility treatments. Forgive me if I don't think he's earned the right to your good news.
I knew she was right.
Part of me, the part that was still wounded and angry and aching, agreed completely. But another part, the part that still remembered the man I'd married 15 years ago, felt like keeping this from him was wrong. What if word gets out? What if someone sees me at Dr. Marembi's office? What if I start showing? Then we're careful. You wear loose clothing. You tell people you're trying to gain back the weight you lost. You blame stress for any symptoms. And if anyone asks directly, you lie. You've earned the right to lie to these people, Serafina. They've lied to you for months. She was right. I knew she was right. Don't tell them yet, Cordelia said firmly. Let them show you who they really are first. Document everything. Jessamine's cruelty. Malachi's weakness. Valencia's manipulation. And when the time is right, when you're ready, you drop this bomb on them and watch their world explode. I thought about it. About walking back into that house with my secret. About watching Jessamine parade her pregnancy around while hiding my own. About the power of knowing something they didn't. Of holding this one thing they couldn't take from me. Okay, I said finally. Okay, I won't tell them. Not yet. Cordelia smiled. A fierce, predatory smile. Good. Now, let's get you eating. You're growing a baby and that baby needs fuel. We're stopping at the grocery store on the way home. That's what we did. We went to the grocery store and Cordelia filled a cart with everything Dr. Marembi had recommended. Lean proteins, leafy greens, whole grains, prenatal vitamins. She came home with me and cooked dinner while I sat at the kitchen counter and watched. Jessamine came downstairs at some point, saw us, and frowned. I was going to make dinner. Don't worry about it, Cordelia said cheerfully. I've got it covered tonight. Serafina and I have some business to discuss anyway. Jessamine looked like she wanted to argue but thought better of it. Cordelia had a way of making people think twice. She was a defense attorney after all. Intimidation was part of her job description. After dinner, Cordelia pulled me aside. I'm serious about documenting everything. Keep a journal. Take photos. Save text messages and emails. Anything that shows how they've treated you. When you're ready to file for divorce, and trust me, you'll be ready, you're going to need ammunition. So that's what I did. I started documenting everything. Every cruel comment from Jessamine. Every time Malachi chose her comfort over my dignity. Every family gathering where Valencia toasted to the baby while ignoring my existence. I wrote it all down with dates and times and witnesses. And I started taking care of myself. Really taking care of myself for the first time in months. I ate 3 meals a day. I took my prenatal vitamins religiously, hiding them in my bathroom where no one would find them. I went for walks in the morning before anyone else was awake. I drank water, rested when I was tired, listened to my body. I also started preparing for war. Because that's what this would be, eventually. A war for my dignity, my assets, my future. I met with Cordelia's colleague, a divorce attorney named Patricia who specialized in high-asset cases. We discussed my options. California was a no-fault divorce state, but adultery could still impact spousal support. The fact that most of our assets were mine, bought with my money, my inheritance, my business income, would work in my favor. The house is yours, Patricia confirmed. Your name is on the deed, purchased before the marriage with your family money. He has no claim to it. Your business is yours. The only shared assets are his retirement accounts and the joint checking account. You're looking at a fairly clean split, especially given the circumstances. Knowing that gave me power. The power to endure. The power to wait. And all the while, Jessamine's belly grew. I watched her pregnancy progress while mine remained hidden. She was showing by week 18, wearing tight clothes that emphasized the bump. By week 20, she had a full, rounded belly that she caressed constantly, making sure everyone saw, everyone remembered. She'd started ordering me around like I was the help. Serafina, could you pick up my dry cleaning? I'm just so tired these days, and the baby takes so much energy. Serafina, would you mind running to the store? I'm craving pickles and ice cream, and I really shouldn't be driving when I'm this exhausted. I did what she asked, not because I was weak. Because every time she treated me like a servant, I documented it. Every time she crossed a line, I saved it for later. Malachi was useless. Worse than useless. He was caught between his guilt over me and his excitement about impending fatherhood. He'd try to have conversations with me, ask how I was doing, but it was hollow. Performative. His mind was always on her, on the baby. I could see it in his eyes. By the time Jessamine was 5 months pregnant, she'd fully taken over the household. She redecorated the living room, changed out my carefully chosen artwork for generic prints she liked better. She invited people over without asking me. She acted like she was the lady of the house, and I was the awkward relative who'd overstayed her welcome. The final straw came at a family dinner. Not at Valencia's this time, but at my house. Valencia had insisted on it. It's important that the baby feels connected to the family home, she'd said, as if the baby could feel anything from inside Jessamine's womb. We were all seated around my dining table. The table I'd had custom made from reclaimed wood, where I'd hosted countless dinner parties, where I'd celebrated 15 anniversaries with Malachi. Valencia was at the head of the table, naturally, acting like she owned the place. Malachi sat next to Jessamine, his hand occasionally drifting to her belly, that unconscious gesture of ownership and pride. I sat at the other end, invisible as always. Valencia tapped her wine glass with her fork, demanding attention. I want to discuss something important. We need to think about the baby's future, about what's best for the child. Here we go, I thought. Another speech about duty and family and accepting reality. Malachi, Valencia continued, you need to do the right thing. You need to divorce Serafina and marry Jessamine. The baby deserves to be born into a legitimate family. The Harlow name has a legacy to uphold. I stopped breathing. I'd known this was coming eventually, but hearing it said so bluntly, so matter-of-factly, still felt like a punch to the gut. Malachi shifted uncomfortably. Mother, I don't think. This isn't a discussion, Malachi. It's a necessity. Serafina has been more than understanding about this situation, but we all know the marriage is over. It's been over for years. Let her go. Let her move on with her life. And you move forward with yours. I waited for him to defend me, to say something, anything that suggested I still mattered to him. That 15 years of marriage meant more than the 8 months since his affair began. He said nothing, just stared at his plate like the answers might be written in the grain of the wood. Jessamine placed her hand on her belly and smiled at me. That same triumphant smile I'd seen so many times. It would be better for everyone, wouldn't it, Serafina? You could finally move on. Find someone who's someone you're more compatible with. Someone who maybe isn't so focused on family and children. There are plenty of men who'd be happy with a career woman who doesn't want kids. The implication was clear. I was too ambitious, too focused on work, too defective to be a proper wife and mother. And now I should gracefully bow out and let the fertile young woman take my place.
Something inside me snapped.
Not in a breaking way. In a clarifying way. I suddenly saw everything with perfect clarity. These people didn't care about me. They never had. I was just an obstacle between them and what they wanted. And they were asking me to remove myself for their convenience. I smiled. A genuine smile. And I said, very calmly, "You know what, Jessa? You might be right." The table went silent. Everyone stared at me. Malachi's face showed something like panic, as if he'd expected me to fight, and my agreement terrified him more than resistance. I stood up. "If you'll excuse me, I have some things to take care of." I walked out of the dining room, up the stairs, to my bedroom. I could hear confused murmuring from downstairs, but I didn't care. I went to my closet and pulled out my suitcase. I'd barely started packing when Malachi burst through the door. "What are you doing?" I continued folding clothes, placing them carefully in the suitcase. "What does it look like I'm doing? Where are you going?" "That's really not your concern anymore, is it?" "Serafina, stop. We need to talk about this properly." I turned to face him. Really looked at him. This man I'd loved for 15 years. This man I'd built a life with, suffered with, hoped with. This man who'd betrayed me in the cruelest way possible and then stood by while his family humiliated me repeatedly. "There's nothing to talk about, Malachi. Your mother is right. Our marriage is over. It's been over since the night I watched you with Jessamine in the guest house. Maybe it was over before that. Maybe it died slowly with every failed treatment, every miscarriage, every moment you pulled further away from me. But it's definitely over now. Don't do this. Please. I know I've made mistakes." "Mistakes?" I laughed. A harsh sound. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary or leaving the toilet seat up. You had an affair with our maid. You got her pregnant. You brought her into our home, into the room next to ours, and you let her treat me like trash in my own house while you stood by and did nothing. Those aren't mistakes, Malachi. Those are choices. I still care about you. You have a funny way of showing it. Where will you go?" "Again, not your concern. We need to discuss the house, the assets, the division of. We'll talk. Through my lawyer, Patricia Churn. I believe you know her. Cordelia's colleague. She's representing me in the divorce." The word hung in the air between us. Divorce. Final and absolute. "You're really filing? Did you think I'd stay? Watch you play house with your mistress? Watch you be a father to her child while I stood in the corner like some pathetic, barren ghost? I have more self-respect than that, Malachi. I should have left months ago." He looked stricken. Lost. Like he'd truly believed I'd just accept this situation forever. That I'd be grateful for whatever scraps of attention he threw my way while building a new life with someone else. "I never wanted this," he said weakly. "But you let it happen. You made choices that led here. And now you have to live with them." "So do I. But at least I can live with them somewhere else." I zipped up my suitcase, grabbed my purse, and walked past him. He didn't try to stop me. Downstairs, the family was still at the table. They all turned when I appeared with my luggage. "Leaving so soon?" Valencia asked, her voice dripping with false concern. "Yes.
Permanently.
I'll have my attorney contact Malachi about the divorce proceedings. You'll all have plenty of time to celebrate without me there to dampen the mood. Jessamine's smile was brilliant. Victorious. She'd won, and we both knew it. Or so she thought. I walked out of my house, loaded my suitcase into my car, and drove to Cordelia's condo. She opened the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. You told them? I told them I was leaving. Filing for divorce. That's all. And the pregnancy? I smiled. A real smile this time. That's my secret. Let them think they've won. Let Jessamine believe she's claimed my life, my husband, my home. Let them celebrate. Because in 3 months, when I walk into that divorce mediation showing my own pregnancy, it's going to detonate their entire fantasy. Cordelia hugged me tight. That's my girl. Now let's order takeout and start planning your total domination. I let them think they'd won. I let Jessamine believe she'd claimed my life. But I was 3 months pregnant with a secret that would destroy everything they'd built on my pain. And I couldn't wait to see their faces when they finally learned the truth. If you're on the edge of your seat wondering how Serafina is going to reveal her pregnancy and take back her power, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now because the final act of this story is going to leave you speechless. Living with Cordelia was the first peace I'd known in months. Her condo was sleek and modern, all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It was the opposite of the house I'd left behind, the house full of memories and ghosts and betrayal. Here, I could breathe. The day after I moved out, I filed for divorce. Cordelia went with me to the courthouse. We filled out the paperwork together, her legal expertise ensuring every box was checked correctly, every detail was precise. When I signed my name on those papers, I felt something shift inside me. Not sadness. Relief. Like I was finally acknowledging what had been true for a long time. Now comes the fun part, Cordelia said as we walked out of the courthouse. Asset division. And honey, you're about to realize just how much power you actually have. She was right. We sat down with Patricia, my divorce attorney, and went through everything. The house was mine, purchased before the marriage with my inheritance. My interior design firm was mine, built by me, funded by me, operated by me. The investment accounts I'd started in my 20s were mine. My retirement fund was mine. The only shared assets were Malachi's retirement account and our joint checking account, which had maybe $50,000 in it. He's going to fight for the house, Patricia warned. It's worth over $3 million now. He'll claim he contributed to its maintenance, that his income helped support the household while you built your business. Let him fight, I said. I have documentation of every dollar I spent on that house. Every renovation, every repair, every piece of furniture. My money, my decisions. He can fight all he wants. He won't win. Patricia smiled. I like you. You're going to do just fine. But we weren't ready to schedule mediation yet. I was only 3 months pregnant. Fragile. Still in the danger zone, where I'd lost pregnancies before. Dr. Marembi wanted to wait until I hit the 2nd trimester, until we were more confident this baby would make it. So I waited. And while I waited, I transformed. I started eating properly. Not just forcing food down to nourish the baby, but actually enjoying meals again. Cordelia and I would cook together, trying new recipes, laughing over wine for her, and sparkling water for me. I was gaining weight, but it was healthy weight. My face filled out. My skin cleared. I looked alive again. I went for walks every morning. Long walks through the neighborhood, breathing in fresh air, feeling my body grow stronger. At first, I was exhausted after 20 minutes. By month 4, I could walk for an hour without stopping. I also started going back to work, really working, not just going through the motions. I'd neglected my business for too long, let clients slip away, let projects fall apart. It was time to rebuild. I called my assistant, Maria, and told her I was ready to come back. She actually cried with relief. I thought we were going to lose everything, she admitted. But I knew something terrible must have been happening for you, to just disappear like that. I didn't tell her everything, but I told her enough. About the separation, about needing time to heal. She understood. She rallied the team, helped me reconnect with clients, brought me new projects. Within a month, we had 3 major contracts signed. Within 2 months, we were hiring again. And through it all, my belly grew. By month 4, I was definitely showing. Not hugely, but enough that people would notice if I wasn't careful. So I was careful. I wore loose blouses, oversized blazers, flowing dresses that skimmed over the bump rather than hugging it. I carried folders and bags strategically positioned in front of my stomach. I turned sideways in photos, kept my distance in meetings. Only Cordelia and Dr. Marembi knew. I went to my appointments every 2 weeks, then every week as I progressed. Each time, Dr. Marembi would do an ultrasound, and each time, my baby was there. Growing. Thriving. Healthy. At 16 weeks, Dr. Marembi asked if I wanted to know the sex. "It's a girl," she said, smiling. "A strong, healthy girl." I cried right there on the examination table.
A daughter.
I was having a daughter. After 15 years of trying, after 3 miscarriages, after watching my marriage implode, I was having a daughter. "Have you thought about names?" Dr. Marembi asked. I had. I'd been thinking about it for weeks, actually. Evangeline Aurora. Evangeline means bearer of good news, and Aurora means dawn. A new beginning. It's perfect. By month 5, I could feel her moving. Little flutters at first, then actual kicks. I'd be sitting at my desk working on a design proposal, and suddenly there'd be a thump against my ribs. A reminder that I wasn't alone anymore. That I was growing a whole person inside me. I'd place my hand on my belly and talk to her. Tell her about my day, about the nursery I was planning, about how much I already loved her. I'd tell her about her Aunt Cordelia, who was already spoiling her with tiny designer outfits. I'd tell her about Dr. Marembi, who'd never given up on us. And sometimes, late at night, I'd tell her about her father. About the man he used to be, before everything fell apart. Because as angry as I was, as betrayed as I felt, Evangeline deserved to know that her father hadn't always been weak and faithless. That once upon a time, he'd been someone worth loving. By month 6, I was undeniably pregnant. The bump was round and full. I looked exactly like what I was, a woman in her 2nd trimester, glowing with health and anticipation. I couldn't hide it anymore, not really. But I didn't have to, because it was time. I called Patricia. Schedule the mediation. "I'm ready." She didn't ask if I was sure. She just said, "When do you want it?" "As soon as possible. Before Jessamine has her baby. I want them both there. Malachi and her. And Valencia too, if she insists on being involved. This is going to be quite a revelation." That's the point. Cordelia asked me the night before if I was sure I wanted to do it this way. We were in her living room, and she was painting my toenails because I could no longer reach my feet. You could just tell him privately. Let him process it before the mediation. It might make things less complicated. I shook my head. They humiliated me in my own home. They paraded their affair in front of me, threw baby showers, made me feel like I was nothing. Like I was less than human because I couldn't have children. It's time they understand what they've lost. It's time they see exactly what their cruelty cost them. Cordelia grinned. "God, I love you. This is going to be spectacular." The mediation was scheduled for a Tuesday morning at Cordelia's law firm. She'd booked their largest conference room, the one with the long table and the wall of windows overlooking the city. Patricia and I arrived first. I was wearing my favorite maternity outfit, though it didn't look like maternity wear. Navy blue slacks and a flowing cream blouse with a structured blazer over it. The blazer hid the bump perfectly. You'd never know I was 6 months pregnant unless I took it off. Malachi arrived 15 minutes later with his attorney, a middle-aged man named Robert who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Malachi looked terrible. He'd lost weight. His face was gaunt, his eyes shadowed. His suit hung on him like it was 2 sizes too big. He looked like a man drowning in consequences. When he saw me, something flickered across his face. Hope? Regret? I couldn't tell and didn't care. Then Jessamine arrived. 7 months pregnant. Absolutely enormous. She was wearing a tight dress that emphasized her belly, her hand resting on it possessively. She hadn't been invited to the mediation. This was between Malachi and me, our attorneys facilitating the division of assets. But apparently she'd insisted on coming to support him.
Support him?
As if she hadn't destroyed our marriage. As if she hadn't spent months making my life a living hell. But I smiled and nodded at her, gracious as ever. Valencia swept in last, dressed in her usual designer suit, her jewelry probably worth more than most people's cars. She looked at me with that same dismissive expression I'd seen 1,000 times. Serafina. Still dragging this out, I see. Can't we just settle this like adults? That's exactly what we're here to do, Valencia. Settle this like adults. We all took our seats. Malachi and Robert on one side of the table. Patricia, Cordelia, and me on the other. Jessamine sat in a chair along the wall, uninvolved but present. Valencia sat next to her, the two of them a united front of everything that had worked to destroy me. Patricia started by outlining the assets. The house, my business, the investment accounts, the retirement funds. She presented documentation for everything. Proof of purchase, proof of funding, proof that the vast majority of our marital wealth was mine. Robert tried to argue. Mr. Harlow contributed to the household. His income allowed Mrs. Harlow to focus on building her business in the early years. Mr. Harlow's income was $50,000 a year when they married, Patricia interrupted. Mrs. Harlow's inheritance was $7 million. She purchased the house outright. She funded her business herself. Mr. Harlow's contributions to the household were minimal at best. This is excessive, Robert protested. You're asking for the house, the business, 70% of the joint assets. Mrs. Harlow is asking for what's hers, what she brought into the marriage, and what she built during the marriage. Mr. Harlow is welcome to his retirement account and 30% of the joint checking. That's more than fair given his infidelity. Malachi flinched at the word. Infidelity. Laid out so clinically in the stark light of the conference room. Valencia leaned forward. After she failed to give him a child? After 15 years of inability to perform the most basic function of a wife? She should be grateful he stayed as long as he did. This is robbery. The room went very quiet. Patricia's pen stopped moving. Cordelia's jaw clenched. Even Robert looked uncomfortable. But I just smiled.
Calm.
Serene. Untouchable. Jessamine, emboldened by Valencia's outburst, added her own commentary. Some women just aren't meant to be mothers. That's not Malachi's fault. He deserves to be happy. He deserves a family. He shouldn't have to pay for the rest of his life because Serafina's biology failed her. The silence that followed was absolute. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall, the soft hum of the air conditioning, the distant sound of traffic 20 floors below. I stood up slowly. Every eye in the room turned to me. I unbuttoned my blazer, slipped it off my shoulders, and draped it over the back of my chair. My 6-month baby bump was unmistakable, round and full beneath the cream blouse. Undeniable. Impossible to miss. The room erupted. Malachi's face went through a series of expressions so quickly I almost couldn't track them.
Shock.
Disbelief.
Joy.
Horror. Confusion. All of it flickering across his features like a strobe light. Valencia actually gasped, her hand flying to her chest. Jessamine's face drained of all color, then flushed red, then drained again. She looked like she might be sick. You're right, Jessa, I said, my voice perfectly calm. Some women aren't meant to be mothers. But I'm not one of them. Malachi stood up, so fast his chair fell backward. Serafina, is that mine? I looked at him. Really looked at him. Conceived the same night you decided to finally acknowledge I existed. 3 months ago, while you were celebrating your mistress's pregnancy, I was carrying your child too. The difference? I didn't use mine as a weapon. I didn't parade it in front of you to hurt you. I protected it, because that's what mothers do. You didn't tell me.
His voice was raw.
Broken. All this time you knew, and you didn't tell me. Why would I? So you could be torn between guilt and joy? So Valencia could claim another grandchild for the Harlow legacy? So Jessamine could watch me lose another pregnancy and feel even more superior?
No.
This baby is mine. She's mine, and I protected her from all of you. She? Malachi's voice cracked. It's a girl? Her name is Evangeline Aurora. And she's healthy. Thriving. Due in 3 months. Everything you said couldn't happen, happened. My body, the body you gave up on, the body your mother called defective, is growing your daughter.
Perfectly.
Naturally. Without intervention. Valencia stood up, her face pale. Serafina, this changes everything. We need to discuss. There's nothing to discuss. The divorce proceeds as planned. Malachi made his choice. He chose Jessamine. He chose to stand by while I was humiliated. He chose to let his mother call me barren and defective. He chose to build a family with another woman while I was still his wife. Those choices have consequences. Malachi came around the table. We can fix this. We can be a family. All of us. Please, Serafina. This is what we wanted. This is what we've been trying for. You already chose your family. My voice was ice. You chose them every day you let Jessa disrespect me. Every time you stood silent while your mother suggested I was less than. Every moment you knew I was breaking and did nothing. This baby deserves better than a father who couldn't defend their mother. I'll do better. I swear. You'll have 2 children, Malachi. But you'll only be a father to one. The words landed like a bomb. Jessamine made a sound like a wounded animal. Valencia's face went from pale to red, her mouth opening and closing without sound. You can't do that, Malachi said desperately. You can't keep my child from me. I'm not keeping her from you. You'll have visitation rights. Supervised after she's born. You'll pay child support, of course. We'll work out a schedule.
But she'll live with me.
She'll be raised by me. And I will make damn sure she never doubts her worth the way I doubted mine. Patricia slid the divorce papers across the table. Sign, Mr. Harlow. Unless you want to drag this through court, where all the details of your affair will become public record. Malachi looked at the papers.
Then at me.
Then at Jessamine, who was staring at me with pure hatred in her eyes. How long have you known? Jessamine hissed. 3 months. I found out 2 days after your little family dinner, where Valencia suggested Malachi divorce me. I've been pregnant this entire time. Living with Cordelia. Eating properly. Taking care of myself. Watching you celebrate while knowing I had my own secret. You manipulative. Careful, Cordelia interrupted, her voice sharp. You're in a room full of lawyers and slander is actionable. Jessamine's mouth snapped shut. Malachi picked up the pen. His hand was shaking. I love you. I never stopped loving you. If this is how you love, Malachi, I'm better off without it.
He signed.
Every page. His signature getting messier as he went, his hand shaking harder with each line. When he finished, Patricia collected the papers and handed me my copies. We'll file these today. The divorce will be final in 6 months. Just in time for Evangeline's birth. I put my blazer back on, picked up my purse, and stood up. Cordelia stood with me, a united front. For what it's worth, I said, looking at all of them, I hope you're happy together. I hope Jessamine's baby is healthy. I hope you build the family you wanted.
But you'll do it without me.
Without my home. Without my presence as a reminder of what you destroyed. I walked out. Cordelia followed. Behind us, I heard Valencia's voice, sharp and demanding, trying to regain control. I heard Jessamine crying. I heard Malachi say my name one more time. But I didn't turn around. 6 months later, I stood in the nursery of my house. My house. The house I'd kept, just like Patricia promised. The house that was finally mine alone, free of ghosts and betrayal. Evangeline Aurora Harlow slept peacefully in her crib. 6 pounds, 8 ounces. 20 inches long. Born at 3:47 in the morning after 12 hours of labor. Cordelia had been there. Dr. Marembi had delivered her. And she was perfect. She had my nose. Malachi's dark hair. She had tiny, perfect fingers and toes, and this expression of intense concentration even while sleeping, like she was already figuring out the world. I'd been home for 3 days. 3 days of learning how to be a mother, how to change diapers and navigate breastfeeding and function on 2 hours of sleep. 3 days of staring at this tiny person and wondering how I'd ever lived without her. Malachi had called 17 times since she was born. I'd sent him a picture, as agreed in our custody arrangement. A simple photo of Evangeline's face. He'd texted back immediately. "She's beautiful. When can I meet her?" "Not yet." The custody arrangement specified supervised visitation starting at 3 months. He could wait. Jessamine had given birth 2 weeks before Evangeline arrived.
A boy.
They'd named him something pretentious, something that sounded more like a law firm than a child. Thaddeus Malachi Harlow. I knew because Valencia had sent an announcement, along with a note suggesting I reconsider my stance on family unity. I'd thrown the note in the trash. From what Cordelia had heard through her network, Malachi and Jessamine were miserable together. Turned out, a relationship built on betrayal and lust doesn't translate well into the reality of sleepless nights and dirty diapers. They fought constantly. About money, mostly. Jessamine had expected to step into my life, my wealth, my social status. Instead, she got a man paying significant child support to 2 children, living in a modest apartment, working long hours to make ends meet. Valencia had tried to claim grandmother rights, demanded to see Evangeline. Patricia had shut that down immediately. Mrs. Harlow has no legal right to visitation with a grandchild whose mother doesn't consent. And given her behavior during the marriage, I'd recommend she not push the issue. She hasn't pushed.
Yet.
Cordelia is Evangeline's godmother. She comes over almost every day, usually with food because she's convinced I'm not eating enough. She sits with me while I nurse, telling me stories about her cases, making me laugh when I'm exhausted. She's the best friend I've ever had, and Evangeline will grow up knowing that. Dr. Marembi visits regularly too. She came the day after we got home from the hospital, checked both of us over, and cried when she held Evangeline. "I never gave up hope," she told me. "Even when you did. I knew this was possible for you." People ask if I'm angry, if I hate Malachi and Jessamine for what they did. The truth is, I'm not angry anymore. Anger takes energy, and I need all my energy for Evangeline. Do I hate them?
No.
I pity them, because they had something real, something valuable, and they threw it away for something temporary and hollow. But more than that, I'm grateful, because their betrayal freed me. It showed me that I was fighting for the wrong thing all along. For 15 years, I thought I was fighting to have a baby. But I wasn't. I was fighting to prove I was worthy, to prove I was enough, to prove I deserved love and family and all the things society says a woman should have. Evangeline didn't make me worthy. I already was. I was always enough. I just needed to believe it. The pregnancy happened when I stopped trying, when I stopped measuring my worth by ovulation calendars and hormone levels, when I stopped letting my value as a woman depend on my ability to reproduce. My body didn't fail me for 15 years. My body was protecting me, waiting for the right time, the right circumstances, the right moment. And when that moment came, when I was finally free of the toxicity and pressure and constant judgment, my body gave me exactly what I needed. To anyone watching this who feels broken, who feels like they're failing at what they're supposed to do, remember this. Sometimes the life you're meant to have only comes after the life you planned falls apart. 6 months after my world ended, I found out I was carrying a miracle. Not because the universe rewarded my suffering, but because I finally stopped measuring my worth by someone else's timeline. Your worth isn't determined by your ability to meet society's expectations. It's not determined by your relationship status or your reproductive capacity or your age or your achievements. You are worthy simply because you exist. You are enough exactly as you are. And when you truly believe that, when you stop fighting to prove yourself and start living for yourself, that's when everything changes. Evangeline started to fuss in her crib. That little mewling sound that means she's waking up hungry. I picked her up, settled into the rocking chair, and began to nurse her. She latched immediately, her tiny hand resting against my chest, her eyes closed in contentment. This is what I fought for. Not a baby to validate my existence. Not a child to prove I was a real woman. But this moment, this connection, this overwhelming love that fills every empty space inside me. I look at my daughter, at her perfect little face, and I think about everything it took to get here. The pain, the betrayal, the humiliation, the loss, the grief. And I realize I wouldn't change any of it, because all of it, every terrible moment, led me here, to this chair, to this baby,
To this life.
and that, my friends, is how the woman they called Barren became the mother she was always meant to be. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of your own strength, or if you just want to see more stories about women who refuse to be broken, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what part of this journey resonated with you the most. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And remember, you are worthy, exactly as you are.